Alright, you may have noticed in a lot of my videos, I talk about how by not being committed into a relationship or a marriage that I feel a great sense of freedom, and I often call it a 4th of July. I'll go on a video and say how single lives matter and how happy 4th of July to myself. And there are two reasons for it. Number one, I really do feel at ease that I can be flexible. Right now I'm looking at a job opening in Boston, Massachusetts, and a couple in Phoenix, Arizona. And I may even think about relocating overseas. And I feel a great sense of freedom there. I'm not tied down to anywhere. I hope to move to either Wallace or the Rocky Mountains in general, or Phoenix, Arizona. I really got accepted for who I was over there. But there's another reason for that, and this has to do with an injustice that I suffered around the 4th of July in 2020. You see, in 2020, on the 4th of July, there was a lunar eclipse, and I really wanted to go see it. But I went to go see it, and then I raced around looking for somewhere to plug in my laptop where I could get Wi-Fi in order to get work done instead of taking the day off. You gotta remember, on July 4th, 2020, you couldn't go into a Starbucks and plug in your computer and work remotely, right? You gotta remember the landscape of the time. I was driving a Mitsubishi Lancer. I had an inverter that I could plug things into, but I still had to drive around looking for Wi-Fi, and then the inverter blew up because I was plugging way too many things into the car, and unfortunately, gas didn't cost a fortune at the time. I could run my car and get work done, but it was not very comfortable. I still got things done. And meanwhile, my coworkers were calling out for the most, for things that they probably could have worked through, but they decided that their family was a little bit more important, right? Their kids didn't have school to go to, and they wanted to spend time with their kids who were very scared about what was going on in the news. I mean, that's something that they probably could have worked through, right? But I kind of let them have it because I was thinking that, you know, there are other times in my life where I could use a favor like that. You know, I wasn't too scared of the pandemic. I take very good care of my immune system, and the results have kind of borne that out, right? I've gotten COVID-19 3 times, and I'm fine. The problem is that I took care of a lot of things like that, right? Working on the road, skipping all sorts of personal events, and then one of my coworkers, her niece had her sister had gotten COVID-19, and she had to take care of her niece, which is good. But I felt that my peers had implicitly promised to reciprocate, right? After the pandemic, I really felt I was promised some time to take care of my own personal desires, and unfortunately, 2 years later, all those promises have seemed to have been broken, and I felt very brokenhearted. Earlier this month, when the markets tanked, I thought this was God's repayment to me because I bought a lot of cheap stocks, cheap metals, and I've kind of treated that as the repayment for all the hard work I put into the pandemic. Except now, for the first time since I was 25 years old, I have less than $1,000 in my checking account because I want to take advantage of all this, and it's kind of putting me on edge, but I think I'll handle it just fine. But anyway, happy 4th of July, and I hope we can see that everybody has their unique set of circumstances, and it should really go both ways, right? I still look forward to going back to Gdansk Bay, Poland. I look forward to competing in Pokemon TCGs. There was just one in Columbus, Ohio. I didn't get to go to that this year. I didn't really want to anyway because there's still a lot of anxieties around flying. But hopefully next year. And I hope to keep buying the dips. How low can you go? How low can you go? How low can you go?